Hi, and welcome. My name is Jacqueline, and I'm here with a 1 hour yoga practice for the graduate and professional students at the University of St. Thomas. This video is going out to all of you from the Center for Wellbeing with the understanding that the stresses and the uncertainties of the coronavirus pandemic may be impacting all of you very heavily right now. You may have full or part-time jobs in addition to your coursework. You may be juggling family responsibilities. You might have unique financial burdens. You might find that the timing of this pandemic is affecting your outlook on your chosen field or career. Whatever stressors you're facing right now, a yoga practice is something that can help you deal with the anxieties of this current situation. It's a practice of self-care, and it's one that you can do at your convenience because you have this video. So if you've never practiced yoga before, then welcome. How great that you're trying it now. And I hope you find it helpful. And if you already are a yoga practitioner, then you will hopefully just use this video as an invitation to come back to some tools that you already know are helpful. This practice is really designed to be accessible to everybody. So if you are have any kind of injuries, physical limitations, anything at all, just know that you can do as much or as little as is helpful to you in this practice. The only limitation that, from my standpoint, is don't do anything that hurts. Don't do anything that leaves you feeling too unstable. If you ever feel either physically or mentally overwhelmed by anything we do, just know everybody experiences these practices differently. And since we're not together practicing yoga in a space where I can see what you're doing, I'm just relying on you to take good care of yourself during this practice. There is no expectation at all that you will do anything that feels at all uncomfortable. Do what works for you. There's no good or bad yoga. It's really just about bringing your attention to the present moment and meeting yourself on your yoga mat with compassion and patience and a little bit of kindness. So we're going to start our yoga practice with centering. And centering is just a way of kind of coming into your own space, into your own body, into your own mind. So you may be coming off of a really busy day. You might be taking a break. You might be at the beginning of a day that has a lot of things that you're trying to accomplish. Just know that your mind will wander. That's okay. Your job is not to make your mind a blank slate. Your job is just to notice all of the distractions. And as you notice them, acknowledge them. Oh yeah, there's that thought again. Or, oh, yep, I'm back on my to-do list. Or I'm ruminating about this thing that's on my mind. All you need to do is acknowledge it and then ungrasp it with your attention. You're just letting it be. You don't need to do anything more. You don't need to push it away. You don't need to understand it. You don't need to come up with a story. All you're doing is acknowledging what arises, ungrasping it with your attention, and coming back to your practice. So it's a very simple instruction. It's actually quite challenging to do if you haven't tried it yet. And just know that sometimes it feels easier than others. So some days you might get started and really have a busy mind, and it just feels like you're constantly bringing yourself back. And if that's your practice today, that's great. it might not be as pleasant as when your mind is more compliant or more settled. And in that case, it might feel like, oh, this is so nice. I feel so relaxed. And that's wonderful too. But either way, comfortable or uncomfortable, the practice of bringing your awareness back over and over, the practice of tending to yourself in this way is a really helpful practice during stressful times. So even when the practice feels hard and maybe not that fun, you are building a muscle. You are really teaching yourself a very, very important skill. So we'll start our centering with 3 of the 5 senses. We're going to start actually by looking around and just kind of glance around your space and notice 3 things that you see. Just looking around, seeing 3 things. And once you have those 3 things in your awareness, then either let your eyes close if it feels okay to close your eyes, or you can always just let your gaze rest softly. And notice 2 things that you hear. It can be pleasant or unpleasant, inside your space or coming from outside. And then notice 1 thing that you can touch and feel that texture with your fingers. If it feels okay, now tune into your body, noticing how your body feels. And in particular, just checking in to observe, where do you feel stress or tension in your body right now? Don't need to change it. Just notice, where is stress showing up right now? How is it showing up? How does it feel? And then notice your mental activity, your thoughts and your emotions with a really light and curious awareness. Just note what's there. Note how busy your mind is. Note the intensity of any emotions, any particular thoughts that you're aware of. You're just taking a mental snapshot here, noticing what's there without needing to change it. And then tune in, if it feels all right, to the sensation of breathing in and out. And just start by observing, how does your breath feel? Fast or slow? Short or full? Are some breaths big and others are small? If it feels okay, so if it doesn't, and I'll say this about the breath, but I mean it about everything in this practice, you can always opt out. So if it doesn't feel okay to do work with the breath, then you could just pause, sort of let your breath be, you just breathe naturally and just listen, but you don't have to do it. So maybe if it feels all right, start breathing in and out through your nose. If you're congested and that's not a possibility today, that's fine. But if it feels all right, just feel the breath move in and out through your nose. And you might, if it feels all right to you, place 1 hand on your breastbone and the other hand, you can't see my bottom hand now, but it's just above my belly button. So right on the sort of center of your abdomen. And start to notice which hand is moving the most. Are both hands moving, or is 1 hand really the primary hand that can feel the movement of your breath? When we are under a lot of stress, when we're anxious, we tend to breathe high up into our chest. And so if you're feeling that top hand is the one that's really primarily moving, then that's information for you that your body is picking up on mental stress. And that's the reaction, one of the reactions in your body. So you might be feeling that you're breathing into your chest. And the thing about chest breathing is that it happens as a result of stress and anxiety, but then once it starts and it becomes a habit, then it actually is a driver of stress and anxiety. It perpetuates it. So if you're noticing chest breathing, does it feel at all possible to send your breath down into your belly? So feeling that bottom hand move even just a little bit. So you want to feel like you're inhaling and your stomach is pressing into your hand. So your stomach moves out when you inhale. And then it kind of softens back as you exhale. So there's an expansion into the bottom hand as you breathe in, and a sort of gentle contraction as you breathe out. Now, this might not feel possible right now. If you are really super stressed, you might feel that your whole midsection is kind of locked down. And that's also a physiological response to anxiety and stress. So if you're just, if you tried that and you thought, gosh, I'm just not feeling that movement, don't worry about it. We'll come back to it later as something to kind of revisit and see if anything has shifted in terms of what feels available. But it's something that you can just kind of work with over time and notice how the more you work with it, the more available it might feel. So something to just kind of use as an invitation, but never forcing. So from here, we're going to make our way to some standing postures and movements. If you need to practice the standing postures from a chair, I'll give you some ideas about how to do that as well. So anything we do standing, if you're more comfortable or for any reason need to stay seated, you can stay seated. If you don't have a yoga mat, that's fine. Use the bare floor. You can use carpet. Ideally, don't stand on if you have like a blanket or a towel, that might be slippery. But if you have just a bare floor or carpet that you want to stand on, that would be good. And I'm just going to move back to my yoga mat now so you can watch what I'm doing. And we're going to start with mountain pose. And mountain pose is a really simple yoga pose. It's standing on your 2 feet. And actually, we've been sitting for a while. Let's just kick the legs for a moment and just kind of let go of tension in the legs. And then let your feet land about hip distance apart. Let your arms hang down by your sides. Just feel your feet in the ground. Feel yourself settle into the floor. See if you can really root down through your feet. So imagine that your feet are kind of sinking into the ground, just like you're standing on sand, and you can kind of feel your feet making an impression. Let the bones of your ankles rest down into your feet, so your feet are settled down into the ground. They're resting into gravity. Now let your ankle bones release down into your feet. Feel the bones of your legs release down into your ankles. Feel your pelvis sink down into your legs. So from the waist down, your whole lower body is heavy and rooted and connected to the earth. You can imagine that you're actually able to feel the pull of gravity holding you to the earth, connecting you to all living beings. Check in with your knees. Put just the tiniest little invisible bend in your knees so they don't feel locked. And then invite a sense of kind of a gentle open lift to your upper body. So maybe think about standing with dignity. So we don't need to be stiff or rigid, but we just want to have this sense of dignity in the upper body. So you're feeling the lower body is rooted and the upper body is open. And then check in with yourself again. Just notice what you notice. Thoughts, emotions, any distractions, simply acknowledge them and let them be. And come back to the feeling of your feet in the ground. If you like, bend your elbows, face your palms toward the ceiling. So if you're seated in a chair, you're just doing the same arm movements with your seat on the chair. So we're going to bend the elbows, face the fingertips forward. We're just going to draw the elbows back in space and turn them to the side so you can see that my back is going to arch. And my shoulders are drawing back and my gaze is going to lift slightly. And then we're going to press forward and feel the upper back round as the arms stretch forward. So we're just going to move back and forth a few times. We'll inhale back. And exhale forward, rounding and arching to your comfort. A couple more times like this. You can notice, does the movement want to get bigger? Does it want to get smaller? And you just notice the sensation. So even if you have a lot on your mind right now, can you tune in to that sensation? A lot of us are spending way more time on our computers and other screens than we did before. And so that's leading to tension in the upper chest, the upper back, the shoulders. So these areas might need a little bit more attention. So if you want, maybe roll your shoulders a little bit. Maybe take your hands to your shoulders and make some circles with your elbows. You can circle in both directions. So we're just think about bringing movement back into the body, bringing sensation back into areas that might feel kind of locked down due to our current work habits. Bring your hands to your hips, and again, these same stretches can be done from a chair. So we'll do the first one with the hands on the hips, and then I'll show you an option for a little more sensation if you like. So remember to unlock your knees, and then we're gonna just tip over to the right. So notice my hips, my legs are staying stable, and I'm just leaning my upper body over to the right. So my right side is shortening and my left side is getting longer. I'm stretching the sides of my torso. You can see from my hands that my hips are staying stable. I'll come back to center. And now I'm going to gently lean to the left. The left side's getting shorter now. The right side's getting a nice stretch. My hips, my pelvis are staying kind of rooted and stable. Coming back to center. So this is option number one. If you're wanting a little bit more sensation, you could draw your arms overhead and grab your left wrist with your right hand and gently draw your arms and your shoulders over to the right. See if you can stay rooted through both feet. And then coming back to center, grab your right hand with your left and gently draw to the left. See if you can keep your right foot anchored. Come back to center. You might be done. You might come back to mountain pose. If you want to do one more, take the version that feels the best to you. So maybe that's arms overhead, maybe that's hands on the hips, and just take your time and see how much awareness you can bring to the area where you really feel the sensation. And come back to center, over to the other side, rooting down through both feet, back to center. Let your arms come down and maybe roll your shoulders a few times again. Roll them in both directions. And then let your shoulders rest here. Make sure your knees are unlocked again. And we'll do one more really simple shoulder movement. This one, we're just taking the very tops of the shoulders and we're lifting them up toward the ceiling. So we're kind of, we're tensing the shoulders up here. We're feeling all of that tension build across the tops of the shoulders. You might feel it even across your chest and into your neck. And then the next time you're ready to breathe out, slowly let your shoulders melt all the way down. Pause here when you reach the end of your release. And this time we're going to draw them up again. Going to pause. And this time, as you release your shoulders, can you let this release be even slower and even smoother? It might be really hard to control the release, but just see how much you can keep it slow and steady. And when you're finished with the release, pause and take a breath. And then we'll do it one last time. And this time, when you get to the top, pause. Make sure your knees are unlocked. Make sure you're breathing. And the next time you exhale, let this last release take twice as long as the previous one. So you're really focusing on that release, staying with it. So even when you feel like you've completely released, release some more. Take a breath and release even a little more if you can. Pause here and notice what you notice. So you might let your eyes close or your gaze rest softly and just check in with yourself. Notice what you're feeling. Notice that you're breathing in and out. You can hear the sound of my voice. You can feel your feet on the ground. We're going to move into some sun salutations now. These can also be done seated. So if you're sitting in a chair, you're going to do the same movements of the arms and the upper body, but you're just going to hinge forward in your chair. So let me quick show you. If you're sitting on the chair, we're doing our when we move into our forward folds, which will make sense to you in a moment. So you've got your ankles underneath your knees, and you're just going to hinge forward with a long spine. So you might try this, just kind of tick-tock forward and back. And then you're going to hinge forward, and then when you get to that point where you've hinged as far forward as you can in comfort without forcing anything, then you're going to maybe, if it feels okay, round forward. So you might, when you move into your forward fold, you might have your hands on your knees, or if you have, I'm just getting my block. If you have a block or a textbook, you might put that down in between your feet, and you might come forward and place your hands down on your block. Or if your hands comfortably come to the floor, then you might let your hands come to the floor. So that's the invitation, and we'll put it all together for the sun salutation in a second. But I just wanted to show you the chair option. If you are standing, then same thing. Let's just tick-tock forward a couple times to hinge at the hips. So right where if you were to bend your knees like you're marching really tall, right where your fingers are feeling that crease, where your leg bone meets your hip joint, that's where we're hinging forward. And we're keeping the spine long at first. So we're hinging forward, and then when you get to that point, your hamstrings will tell you when to stop, because you'll feel a sense of kind of tightening along the backs of the legs, maybe through the hips. And then when you get to that point, then let your spine round forward like a string of beads. You're just feeling each one of your vertebrae releasing forward into gravity. And again, you might take your hands to a block, a textbook, a pillow could even work here, or you can take your hands to the seat of a chair. So if it's feeling like a deep forward fold is not helpful to you, then coming forward with your hands on a chair is a great way to support yourself. Then you really help use your arms to de-weight your upper body and help control how far forward you come. So if you have any back pain, that's a really nice option. So we're going to put that together with our sun salutation. We're going to start with hands together in front of your breastbone. This is known as heart center. So palms together, hands at heart center. And we'll inhale, sweep the arms. Now you're going to reach them down and maybe out to the side if that feels okay in your shoulders. Overhead if that feels good to you, but you can always keep them lower. And then we're going to exhale, bring the hands back through heart center, hinge forward at the hips. So this is the thing we just practiced. And then round into your forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Maybe take your hands to your knees, maybe take your fingertips to the floor, maybe take your hands to the block, and then exhale back into your forward fold. And then we're going to inhale, long spine, hinge back up, arms sweep. And exhale, hands to heart center. So now we're going to put all of that together, and we're going to do 4 more of these together, but you could always do fewer if that feels best to you. We'll all meet back in mountain pose. I'm going to do it from the side so you can see that hinging at the hips if you need a visual. So we'll inhale, sweep the arms overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. We'll hinge forward and round into a forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, back into your forward fold. You'll notice I have my knees comfortably bent. Inhale, long spine and come way up, hinging to standing, arms sweep. And exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, arms reach. Exhale, hands through heart center, hinge forward and round. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, back into your fold. Inhale, long spine, hinge back up as you reach your arms. And exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, arms reach. Exhale, hinge forward and round. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale all the way back up, long spine, arms reach. And exhale, hands to heart center. Decide if you want to do 1 more. You can follow along with me, or you can move at your own pace. Don't worry about getting it right. It's okay to improvise. Just see what it feels like to move and breathe at your own pace. If you're back in mountain pose, we'll all meet there. There's no hurry. We'll pause at mountain pose. Let the arms come down by your sides. Let your eyes close or your gaze rest and check in with yourself. What do you notice right now? How does your body feel? Do you notice any shifts? Do you notice any difference in your mental activity? Without any attachment to the answer, just get curious. What do you notice? Is there anything you need to ungrasp right now with your attention? stepping your fingers, or your feet about shoulder distance apart or maybe even wider. We're going to let the arms swing side to side. We're going to start kind of slow and just feel that twisting sensation at the midsection. And then you can tune into your own sensations and notice, does it feel good to speed it up, to let this twisting get more vigorous? Or does it feel good to maybe slow it down and have it be really gentle and more controlled? So if you're moving faster, you might notice that the momentum is carrying your arms, and maybe your hands even come around and hit front and back as you swing. And if you're moving in a more controlled way, you might imagine that as you slowly move side to side, your body is like seaweed. So just, you could try them both and just see which feels best, but notice how the twisting feels. Notice where and how you feel the sensation of the twists. Twists tend to help us ground, and you might visualize that with every swing, side to side, that you are wringing out stress and tension from your body, from your mind, just like water from a sponge. If this feels good, stay with it for a moment longer. And if you're feeling complete with this movement, you can always come back to mountain pose. And when we're all back at mountain pose, we'll just pause here, reconnect with the foundation. Feel our feet in the earth, feel our strong legs rooted and stable. Notice if you put one hand or both hands over your breastbone, can you feel your heart beating? You might notice your breath got a little faster. Can you let one hand or both hands on your breastbone, which again in yoga is known as heart center, can you let that feel like a touch of compassion or kindness for yourself? Maybe to let your eyes close if that feels comfortable. Just feel that compassionate touch. Let your arms come down, and we're going to move into some variations on tree pose. So if you are doing tree pose from a chair, you want to sit forward on the corner of the chair, a front corner of the chair, and you'll have one leg comfortably bent with the knee over the ankle, and we're going to let the other knee roll out to the side any amount. And so again, I'm not able to see what you're doing, so if you have any kind of pain or concerns around your hips, maybe you skip this one and you sit in mountain pose and you feel that sense of anchoring and rooting down. So that's always an option. Tree pose is a pose that involves two components. It's the external rotation of the hip, which I just showed you from the chair, and I'll also show you from standing. If you do tree pose standing, it's also a balancing pose. So start by exploring the hip rotation to your comfort, only to what feels comfortable. So we're going to shift into the left leg. We're going to bend the right knee forward and come up on the right toes with the right heel lifted off the ground. And you can always use a chair or a wall to help support you if you need a little extra stability. And we're just going to first play around with rotating from the hip socket. So your femur bone goes into your hip joint, like the femur bone is the ball and the joint is the socket, and the bone kind of rotates side to side. So as we turn, I'm going to get a little closer just so you can see me on this one. As we rotate, we're just moving on the ball of the foot. And you want to think about moving your whole leg as one unit. So you don't want to move from your knee. You want to really just, whatever is your comfortable range of motion, just move from that hip socket. And then once you get to what feels like a comfortable external rotation, pause here. So now I've got my right toes on the floor. I'm standing tall on my left leg. I've got my hands, you either have hands on your hips or hands at heart center. And this might be a really nice option for tree for you today. It gives you the external rotation of the hip. We're still working with balance, but we still have a nice stable foundation. So that might be where you stay. If you want to explore a little more balance, you might take your heel and rest it on your left inner ankle. So right heel to left inner ankle. And that might be your tree. You still got your right toes on the floor. Notice if you're holding your breath. Can you breathe here? If the answer is that you really can't breathe comfortably, then go back to the more stable option, or maybe come down to the seat of the chair. But if it feels okay right here and you want to explore standing on one leg, try placing your right foot on the inside of your left calf. Feel the stability of your left leg rooting down. Feel your upper body rise up and maybe open up your arms to the side like tree branches. If you feel unsteady, bring your toes back down. You can always come back in and build that stability. Make sure you're breathing. Let your breath feel slow and gentle. And when you feel complete, go ahead and step your right foot down and notice how different your two legs might be feeling right now. And then go ahead and kind of kick your legs out to neutralize the sensation in the two legs. Maybe swing your arms side to side for a minute. Let go of tension. And then we'll come back to mountain pose. Getting ready to explore tree on the other side. So we'll shift into the right leg now. Come up on the left toes with the left knee forward. And we're going to just first explore the internal and external rotation of the left hip joint. So if you've been sitting a lot, your seated position kind of mostly doesn't allow for a lot of internal and external rotation. So you can think of this as bringing some much needed mobility into that hip joint, keeping it healthy and mobile. When you feel complete and you feel like you found that nice external rotation from the hip joint, not from the knee, maybe bring your hands to heart center. And this might be your beautiful, strong tree. You might stay right here and maybe reach your arms up and out. Or you might bring your heel in and rest your heel against your right ankle. Notice how that feels. If you want to explore standing on one leg, you might bring your foot in against the inside of your calf. You might open up your arms like tree branches, or you might keep your hands together at heart center. Notice your breath. Let your breastbone lift a little bit. Just feel that sense of standing tall, opening up, rooting down. If you feel wobbly, just notice the wobbles. And whenever you're complete with your tree, pause back in mountain pose. Notice the difference between your two legs. And then once again, kick your legs and march your feet. Come back to mountain pose. Take a little snapshot. Notice what you notice right now. What has shifted for you since you began your yoga practice? We have one more standing posture we're going to do before we make our way down to a seated position. But if you're finished standing, if you're really ready to take a break, just go down to seated and we'll meet down there in a moment. So the last standing posture is chair pose. In chair pose, we want to use that same hinging of the hips. We're going to sit back in an imaginary chair with a long spine and take hands to heart center. And you can do this from your chair as well. So if you've got a chair and you prefer to do this seated, you're just gonna hinge forward, and then that will be your chair pose. So either way, seated or standing, you're gonna sit back in your chair with your hands at heart center, long spine, and you can gaze down at your fingertips or just down at the floor in front of you. And then on your next inhale, we're gonna stand up and reach the elbows out to the side. So the elbows will come out like a cactus shape. And then we'll exhale back into the chair. Inhale, lift, elbows out. Maybe the gaze lifts slightly. We'll do this flow 3 more times on your own, exhaling down and inhaling to lift. You can always stop sooner, always take rests or pauses when you need to. You don't have to go super far down into your chair. And then take the option of one more chair. And as you come back into this last version of chair pose, pause here. Feel the strength of your legs. Feel that effort. Feel both feet on the ground. Feel your breastbone lift. And then when you feel finished, when your legs are telling you you need to be done, go ahead and melt forward over your bent knees into ragdoll pose. So only if you have comfort and ease in your low back. You can always take your hands or even the top of your head to the seat of a chair. If it feels okay to rest forward with your upper body completely releasing into gravity, you might pause here and rock a little bit. You might do a little bounce. You might take opposite elbows. Maybe sway, or maybe just choosing stillness. And when you feel ready, make your way all the way down to the floor. So if sitting on a chair is going to be the most comfortable option for you, that's completely fine. Make your way down to the seat of your chair. If you are sitting on the floor, I recommend sitting on something. You could sit on a folded blanket, you could sit on a towel, a cushion. Just find a comfortable seat. So if you are sitting with legs crossed and it's comfortable to you to have your knees higher than your hips, go ahead and stay where you are. If that isn't all that comfortable, one nice option can be to have your knees lower than your hips. So I'm sitting up on a blanket, and then I've got both of my heels. I take one heel and kind of fold it in, and then the other foot is in front, and then my knees are down lower than my hips, so it's like a little tripod supporting me. The 2 knees are on the floor and my sitting bones. So that's my 3 points of support here. So that feels good to me, but if there's some other option that feels most comfortable to you, do what feels best. And go ahead and bring your hands back to heart center. Let your eyes close or let your gaze rest. And take a few gentle spinal twists, just moving to your comfort. Gently rotating side to side, slowly exploring the sensation of the twist. Noticing that sensation, noticing how much awareness can you bring to the feeling of gently wringing out your spine. When you're ready, come back to center. Let both arms rest. Let your eyes close or let your gaze rest softly. And just notice what you notice. Check in with yourself again. How does your body feel? How does your mind feel? your emotions. Feel your body settle into the earth. Notice where and how do you feel supported, whether you're on a chair or on a blanket or the floor. Notice the feeling of resting into physical support, of connecting to that support. Notice that the thoughts will come and go. Let your only job be to acknowledge what's there, to let go of the story or the judgment or the analysis, and just welcome yourself back to your practice as often as you need to. Reminding yourself that for the remainder of the time that you're doing this yoga practice, there is nothing you need to do. No problems to be solved, nothing to be figured out or remembered or planned. Your only job right now is just to be. And if that was helpful for you earlier, you might place one or both hands on your breastbone. Just give yourself that compassionate touch. Even maybe a kind word or two. It's okay. Or I'm fine. Or whatever word or words might feel comforting to you right now. And then maybe place your one hand on the breastbone and the other hand just above your belly button. And notice, does it feel any different to invite the breath to just gently nudge a little bit lower down? Is there any more freedom to breathe with the diaphragm muscle? To quiet the chest and feel that outward movement of your belly into your hand with each inhale. And another way you might explore this is if it feels okay to place your hands on your sides and feel yourself breathe into your hands, breathe into your sides. So the expansion happens on the inhale. Good. Let your arms come down. Pause here. One last check in with yourself in mountain pose, seated mountain pose, feeling your foundation rooted to the earth. And then we're going to shift now and move down to the floor. So if you have a blanket, certainly if you have a yoga mat, but if you don't have a yoga mat, but you have a blanket or something else to lie on, maybe a towel, go ahead and grab that. And make your way down onto your back if that feels okay, lying on your mat, your blanket, or your towel. So when you lie back on your mat or on your blanket, let your knees bend toward the sky. Let your feet come toward or down to the floor. Let your shoulders rest and your arms extend alongside you. Your palms can be up or down, whatever feels comfortable. Just notice what you notice here. This new orientation to gravity, this new way of being supported on the ground. If it feels okay, you might press both feet into the earth. Feel the effort in your feet travel up your legs as though you were going to lift your hips up toward the ceiling. And instead of lifting up toward the ceiling, just either let your hips stay down on the ground or they can hover slightly
So we're thinking of this as like, if you're familiar with bridge pose, think of this as an almost bridge. All that effort moving up your legs all the way through your torso. And then go ahead and slowly melt yourself all the way down into the ground. Let all of that effort melt away as you release. And then release even more. Really feel yourself settle into the floor. And then once again, press your feet into the floor. Maybe for this bridge, your hips lift a little bit off the mat. Maybe your hips lift just a little bit higher, just to your comfort, whatever feels welcome. And then slowly, slowly release all of the effort. Feel your whole body sink into the earth. Pausing here, take a breath. If you would like to do one more bridge or one more almost bridge, just let the last one be your own. It can be really minimal. Maybe the hips stay on the ground. Maybe you want to lift up a little higher. Just do what feels welcome to you. Honoring your own needs. And then slowly releasing all the way back down to the ground. Releasing all of your effort. And then releasing even more. And one last time, releasing even more. Let your knees very gently rock side to side, and it's up to you how much movement. So your knees might stay really close to center, or they might rock a little further out, just doing what feels comfortable to you. If you like, let your head turn in the opposite direction that your knees are going. So if your knees are rocking to the left, your head is turning to the right. Moving to your comfort. And when you're complete with that movement, come back to center. Pause and rest. Find your breath. The remainder of our practice is going to be a resting pose called Shavasana. So Shavasana is guided rest. And as you rest in Shavasana, I'm going to guide you through a couple of breathing practices and a mantra. So start by getting comfortable on your mat or on your towel, or on maybe you're lying on a bed or a couch, whatever feels comfortable and just lets you settle in and feel supported. And then once you're settled in, let your eyes close if that feels comfortable. You might have a blanket over you if that feels nice, or even you can tuck something underneath your knees like a cushion or a rolled towel or blanket to support your lower back. And if lying on the floor doesn't feel good, or if lying down doesn't feel welcome, you could always choose to stay seated for the remainder of the practice. And just take a snapshot. Notice what you notice in your body, in your mind. What has shifted for you since you started your practice today? Without expectation, just notice what you notice. Notice what was helpful for you. Let your attention
come back to the gentle rise and fall of your breath. Without needing to control it, just feel the gentle movement of your inhales and your exhales. For some, tuning into the breath feels like coming home to yourself. It can feel really calming and soothing. So if that feels that way for you, then you know that the breath is a really nice resource for you that you can use. But if the breath doesn't feel comfortable, if it hasn't felt helpful for you today, then choose a different focal point. You might choose to tune into the sound of my voice. You might choose to tune in to the sensation of the support beneath you. Another option for something to pay attention to, a focusing tool, is a mantra. And a mantra can be any sound or words that resonate for you. There are many, many kinds of mantras. I'm going to offer you a simple one in English. So just the words "just this" as a way to remind yourself when you feel stressed that you don't need to deal with everything all at once. You don't need to figure everything out or solve every problem. You just need to focus on this one moment, or maybe this one breath. Just this. This can be a really nice, simple mantra to come back to anytime you feel overwhelmed. Just this. So maybe that's where you land for the remainder of your practice with that mantra, just this. Or if you'd like, you might come back to the breath and just notice what it feels like to pay a little extra attention to your exhales. Exhales of the breath are the more calming part of the breath. So exhales and focusing on the exhales can help us settle and feel more calm. So maybe it feels welcome just to notice the feeling of breathing out. You don't need to control it, but just stay with the awareness of the exhales. Remembering you can always go back to the mantra, just this. Or you can always go back to a different focal point. If you are paying attention to the exhales, maybe see if it feels helpful or welcome to count them. So with your next exhale, start at 1. And then just keep counting upward with every exhale until you notice you've lost count, and then come back to 1. The moment that you notice you've lost count is the moment of awareness. Just guiding yourself through this practice. Counting or observing the breath. Maybe using your mantra. Whatever is landing for you in this moment. Whatever resonates. One last time. Check in with yourself. Notice what you notice. Notice what has shifted. And whether there's anything from this practice that you would like to take with you into the rest of your day. As you feel ready, begin to bring a little movement back into your fingers and toes, wiggling them gently. And then circle your wrists and ankles gently if that feels okay. Maybe stretch your arms and legs. You're just kind of waking your body back up, stretching comfortably. And then rolling onto one side if that feels welcome. And gently pressing yourself up to a seated position. And we'll end our practice with hands together at heart center. And if you like, take your thumbs to your forehead to invite compassion for yourself and others into your thoughts. Bring your thumbs to your lips to invite compassion for yourself and others into your speech. Bring your thumbs to your breastbone, heart center, to invite compassion for yourself and others into your actions. Blink your eyes back open. Thank you. I wish you all the best.